felt like you're caught in this wild tug of war between doing everything for yourself and actually letting someone help you for once, you're not alone in this caregiving paradox.
The numbers don't lie. Studies show that 70% of caregivers struggle with asking for help. Yet those who do not report 60% lower burnout rates. Today, we're breaking down these independent myths. Two millennial caregivers keeping it real with a beautiful, chaotic, and sometimes what the moments of being a caregiver. One with data analytics,
and the other with creative self-care hacks. Because sometimes you need those hard facts, and sometimes you just need a really good yap.
We're here to help caregivers not just survive, but thrive. Whether that means tracking progress with receipts and lists, or mastering the art of sneaking in some respite without guilt.
This podcast is for caregivers who want solutions, but also need a space where they feel seen, heard, and low-key entertained. We're just going to get into who you are, what you do, and why you are so amazing. Yeah. So
let's do it. Thank you.
Let's do it.
We are so excited to have Jeanette Yates on our Care-isma podcast. Jeanette began caring for her mother at 8 years old. As a lifelong caregiver, she understood the challenges of balancing self-care with the demands of caring for others. She eventually discovered the power of prioritizing her own needs without sacrificing the care she provides for her loved ones. Jeanette started the Self-Caregiver to help caregivers take care of themselves without being weighted down by guilt. Jeanette is the author of From Guilt to Good Enough, a caregiver's journey of overcoming burnout through healing childhood trauma. You can find her on Instagram, TikTok, and Substack.
What do you think was your personal turning point in recognizing the need for interdependence?
A lot of people struggle with that independence where they don't ask for help. We're all raised like do it all ourselves, right? Like we can handle it. We're amazing women, superwoman, blah, blah, which is not true. I mean, we are super, we're amazing. But for me, the caregiving situation I was in, I was making that my whole identity. Even if somebody was helping, first of all, I'm an only child and my mom was no longer married to my stepfather when things got really bad. Now she's been sick my whole life. So he was around and then he wasn't. When I had my aha moment, he had long since been gone. And I was like, no, I'm the caregiver. I'm the one that's in charge. You all can like pitch in, but like, I'm the one in charge, or like my mom's in charge, or I'm the co-pilot here. So for me, it was more of a codependency issue than it was an independence issue. But I don't want to, that could be a whole nother podcast. I don't want to get off on that too much, but I will just say that like, for me, it was realizing that there was a lot of stuff I was doing just to wear that badge. And my badge said codependent. A lot of our badges say independent, right? Like I'm going to do it all. I'm going to be the hero here.
That makes so much sense. Wow. And I think you're absolutely right when you said it's like the co-pilot, I'm in charge though, but I'm also the co-pilot. And you started caring for your mom at such a young age. So I could see why that would feel like it's a part of your identity because you've been doing it for so long. How do you feel now that you are older? How do you feel your identity is today?
Well, so one of the things that I began to realize about myself is there were periods of time where I really felt like, when I was little, I wasn't my mom's caregiver. I was just her helper. I was just helping mommy. I'm just counting her pills with her. I'm just getting her water. I'm just helping her with the chores or doing the chores. I was doing them. Nobody was helping me. I wasn't helping anybody. I was just doing them. Like now that I look over my whole life as someone who has had this situation in my life for most of my life, I realized that I was also doing that with my job, with my, relationships, with my marriage. I want to make sure everybody's happy. I want to be a people pleaser. And I also want to make sure that I am the hero here. Like I'm doing everything right. I'm going to be the best mom, the best wife, the best worker, the best, all of these things. And that independent, fierce nature that a lot of people that gets rewarded a lot of times, praised in our society. And so I was really eating all of that up. And so that's one of the things I noticed. So as I started disconnecting myself from my identity as a caregiver, I also had to find my identity outside of all the other roles. So I am a caregiver, I am a wife, I am a mom, I am a business owner, but I'm also a human that deserves respect and care and love. And until I was able to say that and know that independent of all of these other parts of me, I wasn't able to find joy and peace and comfort in all those other areas.
Wow. So do you think that you had to like find strategies to help you to redefine your own identity outside of being a mom, a daughter, a wife, a business owner, a caregiver? What were the steps that really helped you to identify? And also, like, how did you grapple with resisting the accolades from being so independent and getting all your
was there a breaking point? I'm curious. Was like, what was the tipping point for you?
Well, part of it. So I also have a history. So like before I had my big burnout breakthrough, whatever you want to call it, with caregiving, I also struggled with body image and all of these kind of things. So, in caregiving, it was just another way I had to learn this, right? That like, even if I am not physically perfect, emotionally perfect, that I still am a worthy human.
You better say it, Jeanette. Say it.
Like that is something that like I started working on when I was dealing with my body image issues. And if I'm going to be honest, and I know y'all like just straight up business up in here.
Yep.
I still have to remind myself I'm a worthy human being. And even when my pants don't fit the way I want, I still deserve to take up space. And even when I make a mistake as a caregiver or am not doing everything 100% correctly, I'm still a worthy human being. And even after some people say when their watch is over, when my caregiving journey ends, I know two things. One, I'm still a worthy human, even when I'm not a caregiver. And also I'm probably going to have another opportunity to give care to someone, because caregiving is not just about the one person in your life. You're going to have multiple opportunities.
Yep.
And so that's another thing. A lot of people are like, if I can just get through this, and you're like, I mean, yeah, but also it may not be over.
It's always another season. It's always a different form of caregiving. You could be caring full time for someone day in, day out. And then the next season, it's a management style of caring for someone,
Right.
just overseeing it because they are very independent, caree. But yeah, caregiving is never really over. Even the plants that you take care of, you're a caregiver. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's astounding to see how the tools that we've learned in our caregiving journey can be used literally everywhere. Like there'll be something that somebody says or something that'll happen, and it's like a trigger or a robot. Like I'll just go like right into it and like just do the thing. And then sometimes I have to stop myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this automatic response. Like I already know I'm built for this. I already know what to do. This is second nature for me.
Well, what's interesting about that is I had the occasion recently, my husband had a medical incident. And so I was sitting in the ER, as we do. And it's like home for me. Well, one of the most hilarious things is like, he had never been in an ER practically. So like he was acting like
he's going to die. Like this is it.
Yeah, he was losing his mind. I was like, first of all, this is the most cush ER I've ever been in, sir. To like tame it down. But anyway, like I started going into caregiver mode.
Yeah.
And I realized he hadn't asked me to do that.
Mm.
So I was like sticking my nose in where he did not need me. Like there may be a time that he will need me, but it was not right then. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to step right out of this. I don't need to be in control of this situation. He's got it. He's coherent. He's making the decisions. He doesn't need me. And so I think it is so automatic for some of us, especially like in my case where, I don't know any better. And that's where that independence comes in. Speaking of independence versus interdependence, interdependence is a back and forth conversation. It is an open and honest dialogue. It is not just elbowing your way in and saying, I'm going to take over here.
Absolutely. 100%. And I want to give you some flowers for that, Jeanette, because it takes a lot to be emotionally present and self-aware to know that it's okay to not have to care for this person, because the narrative for that role of a wife, of a partner, of a daughter, is to be the caregiver. That's it.
Right.
That's why you're here. But for you to be so cognizant of, my husband did not verbalize that he needed anything in this moment, I am going to continue to stay present and be ready if he vocalizes that he needs assistance. And I give you a lot of flowers for that, because that takes a lot to actually get out of the routine and to be in stillness and to be in proactive presence. That's what you were doing. You were being present.
Yeah.
And not just being on. Okay.
Right. Well, and I think too, I remember having conversations after, and I would be telling people that he had been in the ER, and they're like, "Oh, well, when does he have his follow-up appointment?" I'm like, "I don't know. He made it. I don't."
Good for you. Hey, do you hear that in the background, or is it just on this end? Is that applause? Yeah. That's an accolade for you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, if he needs me to go to an appointment or do something he's going to let me know. But like, I don't need to put that in. My calendar is full. Thank you. And I will move something for my husband if he asks me to. He's like, I'll make the appointment. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And he did need my help, one day, and he asked for it, and I was able to give it to him, and that was fine. I'm not trying to manage his care until he needs me to. And I think, especially when we're talking about caring for aging parents, it's different with spouses and children and all that. But I think either sometimes we're completely oblivious to the fact that our aging parent might need our help because they're our superheroes, right? They've got it, maybe.
Absolutely.
Not always, but it's like I run into people, they're like, "Oh, my parents are fine." And you're like, "Are they? Do you even know?" Right. So there's that. But then a lot of times we're trying to elbow our way in. And there's a difference between being in denial. I mean, I'm not talking about those people that are clearly in need of help, but I'm like, if you parent, it's their decision. And so we have to be interdependent and have that dialogue and have that conversation, but we can't be elbowing our way in there and demanding that we take over in a way that's not helpful to basically anybody at that point, because you're adding extra stress to yourself. And you're adding stress to that parent that's like already grappling with their diminishing mobility or whatever it might be, right?
100%. And that's why I love your book, From Guilt to Good, because that makes sense with how we can learn how to not feel guilty about doing all the things for our aging parent. When we understand that things are going to happen, things are going to slow down on their case. Okay, maybe we can check in gently.
Right.
But what would you suggest how a caregiver can help themselves to not feel so guilty, even though they know that their parent is aging? How can they get to a place of good?
There's a couple of different things that are very important. Number one, if you haven't had a healthy relationship with your parent thus far, it's not going to get any healthier.
Ooh, wait a minute. Drop that mic. Hold on. Let it marinate. Let it breathe. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So you can't expect like, oh, now I'm going to go in and be the hero, and they're going to be so appreciative of me all of a sudden, right?
No redemption.
That's not going to be how it flows. So if I always suggest, advocate for, if you are at all open to therapy, please get into it.
Get into it.
And that save yourself. Cause like, that's what happened to me. Like I saw the writing on the wall with my mom and how things were going. And then I started to realize my relationship with her was not healthy. It was a codependent relationship. And I was like, I'm going to have to start telling her no. And I was unable to do that at the time. So I got into therapy so that when it started to happen, I got better at saying no. So that was what I did. Right. So I know some people are like, I'm not going to therapy ever. Okay, fine. Okay. You do you. But what I'm telling you is, do not expect your parent that's been the same way they've been for their whole life to suddenly change. And if you don't have a good relationship with them now, you need to be prepared. And it's not wrong to give care to them, even if you don't, even if y'all aren't BFFs, right? But what I'm saying is you need to manage your expectations here.
Ooh, guys, I told you she is fabulous. Okay.
So that is the one thing. And then the second thing I would just say real quick is, like you mentioned, don't wait till the diagnosis, the accident, the frantic call in the middle of the night to get to have conversations with their parent about what they expect. Okay. What are they expecting to happen? What do they want for their care situation to look like? If they say, I want to stay at home until the end, say, great. How have you planned for that? And if they haven't, that's a good time to start having a conversation, because, I think that's where there's a little bit of, lack of communication. We don't want to talk about it. And then it's just going to get worse because if something happens, then you've got to make all those decisions in a stressful situation under a pressure cooker. You're not going to be making the wisest decisions. So the earlier you can start incorporating these conversations, it's not going to be one conversation. It's going to be a lot of teeny tiny conversations, a lot of teeny tiny ones. So when you're visiting with your parents and they tell you that so-and-so down the street broke a hip and da-da-da-da-da, that's a great time for you to say, oh, that's a good point. I wonder what what are your plans? Like, what would happen? What would you like to happen in that scenario?
Yeah. Another type of emergency plan. Like, what would happen in a fire? What would happen in an earthquake?
And then you can kind of like incorporate it in, and then I'm sure this is something that y'all talk about too, but write it down, put it in a place, have it,
T is the data queen for sheets. Okay. Yeah. She's got it.
In addition to having the conversations, it's very important to have a place where it's written down, where you have it organized. T's got you covered on that. That sounds like
she really is when it comes to organization, like, the escape plans, the fire, or what happens if you break your hip. Like you said, Jeanette, what would you like your care to look like? I think that's also very important what you said too, because it does help when you have the little conversations. It doesn't have to be this long day of question and answers with your loved one. It's built in over time. That also helps with the guilt. That's how you can get to the good, right?
Right.
Little by little, baby steps. That also helps it feel less overwhelming.
Yes.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Well, and with the guilt, one thing I really had to learn too is I was carrying around a lot of guilt all the time. It just, I was never good enough. There was always going to be more to do. I was never able to do it all. Sometimes she was mad about that. Sometimes I was mad about that. It just depended on the season that we were in. It was a ton of guilt all the time. And then I started getting curious about my guilt. So like when I was feeling, I'm not doing a good enough job as a caregiver, I would say to myself, who said that? Who is saying that to you? Okay. Is it just you and your brain? Yeah. Talk to your therapist about it. You know what I'm saying? Is it the person you're caring for? Are they constantly telling you? That's a whole, maybe, that's a whole other thing. Is it the people you're surrounding yourself with?
Other family members coming by.
Yeah, other family members. Yeah. There's a different way to handle each of those. But like a lot of times we're just walking around thinking we're being a bad caregiver because we have unrealistic expectations of what that's supposed to mean. And whether we've given those expectations to ourselves or we're getting it from other people, one of the things that I did for myself and what I encourage caregivers to do is you can throw out every other person's definition of caregiving and write one that meets your capacity right now.
I love that.
Because how like my capacity as a caregiver changed from when I was 8 years old to when I was 48. I'm not doing the same things. So when my kids were babies, I was doing a different type of caregiving for my mom than I was doing when they're teenagers.
Right.
And so in addition to her capacity changing and her needing more, my capacity changed because there were different things in my life.
And you couldn't give more. Right.
Right. And so like I had to pull back or give more. I think when we redefine caregiving, and it changes depending on our capacity. We don't, you don't say, I'm only going to do this and I'm never going to do anything else. Like your capacity shifts in seasons. When we can do that, that really can help us get rid of that guilt, because we're evaluating our success as a caregiver based on what is actually going on with our loved one and their needs and our needs. Part of the caregiving equation includes us. And if we're not assessing our own capacity first, we don't know how much we have to give. And we're just saying yes to everything, even when we don't have the capacity to do that.
Wow. And this is just the hot tea from this episode, y'all. You got to get the book, okay? Because wow. I think that's such a relatable situation that happens for so many caregivers is how do they let go of the guilt and also the opinions, whether they are unsolicited or not, from
Right.
others who are only observing what they're
Yeah.
doing on their care journey and then adopting those opinions as their own self-talk. Because
Right.
I love what you said. Who said you're not
Who
doing
said
on
that?
Who said that?
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy. And another thing about the guilt too, is you may still feel guilty from time to time. Like sometimes when I leave my mom and she says, I don't want you to leave, you know, it's not like I'm like, I mean, I feel that, but I don't base my decisions on the guilt.
Right. I love that.
That is where the big shift happens. If you're making caregiving decisions based on what you think other people are going to think about it, what you know, what your loved one may or may not say about it, that's not necessarily the right decision. You have to be able to say what is acceptable, appropriate, and needed in this moment. When I visited my mom and she says that she wants me to stay a little bit longer, if I have nothing else going on, if my, everything is taken care of, I can stay a couple minutes. It's not a big deal. And the truth is, I stay 2 more minutes. She's probably asleep. No, that's just the way things are right now. Again, it's fine. But sometimes I have to say, I'm sorry, Mom. I have somewhere I have to be. I will see you again soon. And I walk out. I don't dance around. I don't say, I'm sorry. No. Because that is also just justifying. It's very exhausting. And that just is going to pull on that guilt thread. But if we can learn that we all have a capacity, we all have a limit. And if we can set limits each day, then we can go longer. But we are maxing out because we're thinking my loved one needs me right now. I'm going to be all in, and we're in that crisis mode, which our body is designed to do. Our body is designed to pick up that car off the like we hear it, all these things. But the flip side of that is your body is designed to do that for very short periods of time. So you have to kick it down a notch in order to be able to sustain for the long term. And not everybody is going to have a 40-year caregiving journey like I have.
That's a long time. But you know what? Those limitations, they're giving boundaries. I like that.
Yeah. So like that is, boundaries are healthy and helpful to everybody involved. And your boundary does not have to look like a big old ugly cement block wall. It can look like a beautiful little railroad tie looking fence in the middle of a field of wildflowers. There's space in between. You can walk up there and lean up against it. It's fine. It doesn't have to be a horrible thing.
Yeah. Jeanette, I love that you gave that imagery because the high fence boundary is exhausting.
Yeah.
But the wildflower boundary, that there's rest in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, listen, my family's farm, they're from farm country. So like you delineated your property from the person next to you with one of those like wooden, I don't know, it's not picket fence, but I forget what they're called, wooden fences. And I knew where my property was and you knew where your property was, and we could come visit with each other. And maybe sometimes, if you're cutting near your fence and you want to cut a little on my side because it's helping me out, that's great. But you also know when, your animals are on my side and my animals we take care of that. Right. It happens sometimes the boundary gets crossed, but we work on it together. And a caregiving boundary really has to be more like that than a big old wall. Especially, you can't say like, I'm never going to answer the phone past 9:00 because every emergency is going to happen after 9:00.
Okay. Golly Wally. Yeah.
But you can have other parameters that allow you to rest after 9 p.m. There has to be a little bit of grace. So anyway, that's why I do the boundaries with more like a, pastoral, pasture, relaxing, resting situation than these they're boundaries, not, they're not, prisons. We're just trying to have a little bit of space, a little bit of our own space. And our loved one needs that too.
Everything you said is so resonating with me, since I'm a mother of some young ones. I got a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. And even though I've had a lot of experience taking care of my ex-husband and his parents, I'm kind of in a journey of needing to do that with my parents now. So even though they're totally different relationships, totally different communication styles, everything you said just resonates in how I should continue to move forward and sit down for a minute, look at the flowers and kind of really enjoy the journey. And I'm very thankful that this time in my caregiver journey, I will be setting boundaries, of course, but I don't have to set as many because our communication is really good. Yeah. So I want them to be independent, and they're really good at doing that and not making me want to do more. They actually sometimes push me away, which is also a trigger. But anyways, I appreciate everything you said. That totally makes sense. And thank you for—
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you. And I loved all of the analogies that you gave, because it makes sense when it relates to something in our lives. So it makes sense about how to stop feeling guilty. Well, think of it as you're in a beautiful garden and you have a neighbor who also has their situation set up. You take care of each other, and you mentioned that. And I love that. Care journey is about partnership and community, and also boundaries. And if we can flow within those 3 main points of partnership, community, and having that included in our care journey, it wouldn't feel as taxing, overwhelming, exhausting, or guilty, because now you have support. And I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, my podcast is From Guilt to Good, because that's kind of where I started with this whole thing. And then when I wrote the book, I was like, From Guilt to Good, it's a catchy name. Think I'll use it again.
It's definitely catchy. Okay.
But I realized that it's not even from guilt to good. It's from guilt to good enough. So the book has that enough on it, because a lot of times we've even co-opted the word good to mean perfect.
No. Well, wait, how many mics you got over there? Because you're dropping all of them.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm on a roll today.
Golly.
So it's, good enough is good enough. It just is.
It's period. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that was powerful. Guys, this was our guest, Jeanette Yates, who is the author of From Guilt to Good Enough. Please definitely also subscribe to her own podcast. But thank you so much for today, Jeanette. You are such a rock star. And we are so honored to have you on our podcast as our first guest.
Oh, I am loving it. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a blast. Anytime.